Good morning. Wonderful to see everybody. I'm Lisa Wainwright. I'm the Dean of Faculty at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And it's just a delight to have such a large crowd this morning after the festivities of last night that went on and on and on. So well done for all of us. I guess this is a tribute to Jerry Saltz. We get up early for Jerry Saltz. What a beautiful fair. Wow. Kudos to everyone who put this fair together, especially our beloved Tony Carmen. I don't know if he ran off. Tony's been doing everything. I just saw him schlepping chairs in here. So what a fantastic Chicagoan, and we are just delighted to celebrate this elegant and important art fair out at Navy Pier again. There you are, Tony. Well done. Tony had a brilliant idea of partnering with the School of the Art Institute to do an educational programming, and that's what we're going to launch this morning. And I was just delighted when Tony approached me about this potential project, because as a museum school, and we are one of the last museum schools in the country, we are very accustomed to speaking about art in front of works of art. That's what we do. We are not one of those programs that are tucked away in a small university town, although those are some very good programs. We live with art, we make art. The proximity of the museum as a venue for display in relation to production at the school is a winner, is magic for us. So it made sense that we would partner with Tony and bring in a cast of speakers to talk about the issues of the day in relation to contemporary art. And so the program for the next 4 days includes artists and gallerists and critics and non-for-profit directors and academics. It's a very rich program with some important people, and I hope when you need a little break and you want to sit down, you can come back over and listen to a wonderful panel. It's perfect to launch the program with Jerry Saltz. He is the people's critic. He is Chicago. And he loves art. We know this about Jerry Saltz. So I look forward to his remarks this morning. Jerry, since 2006, has been the senior art critic and columnist for New York Magazine, which we read eagerly. We used to read Jerry Saltz at the Village Voice. He was the senior art critic there. Jerry has received so many accolades and awards. The Frank Jewett Mather Award is a very important award, and the School of the Art Institute honored Jerry with an honorary doctorate a few years ago, so he's actually Dr. Saltz. We know his publications, Seeing Out Loud, the Village Voice art columns from 2007. If you love Jerry Saltz, which I know you do, that's why you're here, you probably have this book. But and then the one that came out in 2009, Seeing Out Louder. Now, our students at this school, and my colleague Terry Myers, we were always talking about Jerry's Facebook page. That's really where he gets the word out, and that is just a hoot because Jerry's a hoot. But Jerry knows how to use the contemporary media, and he is reaching the masses. Thus, we call him the people's critic. I'm just delighted that Jerry is here, and I'm going to end with just a quick quote from Jerry. He said, I think that the many who continually poo-poo art galleries for being boring or about money underappreciate one of the greatest machines for seeing contemporary art that has ever existed in the history of the world. For these complainers, the art world is not good enough, contemporary art is not up to their standards, they're always disappointed. I always want to say to these people, go away. We can't help you. Here's Jerry Saltz.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa Wainwright. On my Facebook, I don't know if Lisa knows this, when there's like 6 or 7 people commenting and tell me what she wears. And I'm going to tell them you have on a great embroidered skirt with great flowers. I admire Lisa Wainwright's spirit, her writing, her strength. Now what she's doing for the Art Institute of Chicago. I'm honored to be introduced by you. And I won't even confess the crush I had because this doesn't, anyway. Chicago, I love you. Thank you for coming out this early in the morning. It's not early in the morning. Come on. I'm up at 3 a.m. worrying already about my work, like you. But we'll talk about that later. So thanks for coming. If you've heard me before, I'm sorry if I repeat myself. Can everybody hear me? Okay. A couple of quick things I want to say. First of all, I'm amazed at seeing some of the power figures in the room. I saw Jessica Stockholder, famous artist in the house, Terry Myers, Todd Levin, Paul Laster. I'm going to forget names now. So now if I forget you, I'm going to just get, depressed. Q, hello. And more. And Laura Mascaro, one of my ex-students whose work I always loved, and now you're teaching where? Savannah College of Art and Design. Amen. We're going to have to solve Leslie Tonkino, sorry. Had I seen you, I would have put you in that first. You are part of the 47%. You're just a taker. Okay. Look, there's a couple things I want to say before the couple of hundred things I'm going to say. First of all, I am from Chicago. I love Chicago. For Chicagoans, we have the hardest time moving to New York. Why? Because we love this city. Look at it out there. Our rents are low. I'm in a hotel room last night. I'm sitting with people going, yes, I bet you my room costs $700 a night. And the guy at the table went, this is $175 a night. This is free, and look at everybody's suffering, but I wouldn't mind suffering down at this lower level of what it costs. So I love Chicago a lot. It's a real city, but a lot of us that come from Chicago especially, we don't know our East Coast kind of speeds and moves, and we're a shy people. You don't know that about us, but we are. Which brings me to something I want to say about last night in this art fair. I'm not an authority on art fairs. I've written famously or infamously that, I've had nervous breakdowns at them. Okay, to be truthful, I've gone to them. I was going to give a talk in Basel, the big Basel in Switzerland. Not the dumb Basel. I'm not trying to attack anybody. I'm just an art critic. This is just my opinion. I don't even know from what I'm talking about. But when I was given a talk in Art Basel, and I was finding myself, I'm really good from about 10 a.m. to about 8 p.m. when I'm walking around the fair or museums or galleries. I find that I'm okay in my interior space, that my core seems secured and not penetrated. And then at about 8 o'clock, after I've heard 200 million people say, hey, what are you doing for dinner? Where are you going tonight? Are you going to that bar? Are you going out to that club? Did you see Petzel and Sverner the other night over at the Thing Party? And then I'm walking around, it's 8, the museums have closed, and I'm all by myself. I ate the sandwiches I've been carrying all morning from my hotel. That's the only time I stop. I'm an art critic. My job is to eat a huge breakfast in the hotel. I love Europe. And then put as many sandwiches as I can fit in my pocket. And I eat on the streets. You always see the Americans on the street in Europe. Like eating on bridges. Hi, I'm crossing water. It's time for a meal, okay? We don't even know how to eat in Europe. We go from 2 to 4, everything's closed, and we're like, what? I need to eat now. But anyway, forgetting all of that, and at night, I found myself having nervous breakdowns. I want to go back to my hotel room alone and just sit there, and while I do that, I'm aware suddenly that the gigantic art organism, the group mind, is meeting in 17 different locations. I'm lucky to be invited, okay? And I didn't go to any of them. And so I'm just sitting there basically in my room, absolutely having a core meltdown. I did this for 2 nights there. And later, the great Laura Hopman stopped me. I talked to her. She's a curator from MoMA. And I said, Laura, this sick thing has been happening to me. And I explained to her, and I said, I'm going back to my hotel room, and I'm crying. I'm just sitting there crying. And she said, oh, dear Jerry, don't you know the secret of art fairs? And I said, no. And she said, we all go back to our hotel rooms and cry. I then told a bad lie. I thought, I still have to last 24 hours, and I said something that they only do on situation comedies. I'm not proud of this. I've written about this. I went up to the Art Basel people, and I said, my stepfather is dying. I need to go home now. Can't we take care of it? No, I have to go now. And there was nothing wrong with my stepfather, and I bought a ticket and I flew home. And I've never crossed water for an art fair again until I went to Frieze in New York. And now I've come here. And now I've come here. And here's my quick thoughts, unqualified, and somebody's actually being paid to speak here. So really, take it with a grain of salt. My sense is this is what I want, but I do not know that it can happen. And again, don't disagree, just this is my opinion. Excuse me, Chicago is a real city with real artists and real galleries and real museums and real collectors and fucking better weather, for my money, than Miami. Move aside, Art Basel, Miami. We're just gypsies. We're just gypsies coming down there in December. Our breasts aren't as big as yours. Our chests aren't as buff as yours, okay? That's about all. The rest is we're coming down there and we're taking your money. We're gypsies. I'm not putting you down in Miami. God loves you and you're gorgeous people, blah, okay? But I would love it if this art fair could replace that one. You'll think, why does one have to replace the other? From an art critic's point of view, there shouldn't be any art fairs. But I accept that there are art fairs, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And I think that this could, with one gigantic if. As many of you know, art is free. If you don't like it, you just leave. Get out of here. You know how much it costs me to go to even Larry Gagosian's 154,000 galleries? They're all free. They're all free. They're in Starbucks now. Oh, here's the Gagosian. Okay, that's great. Here's a painting. It's free. And I like that it's free. I don't care how much Takashi is bringing home. You know? Of course I care, but that's a thing we'll talk about later. These dealers are paying, when all is said and done, 50, 60, 75, 100 G, they're dropping. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of Ford Tauruses, okay, that there's parked right there in back of you. If the collectors do not buy the art, and we are a shy people in Chicago, so we're not fast. We don't run in with money. Any dealers want to tell me they made tons of money last night? Really cleaned up? We don't. I didn't ask a one, so again, I don't know what I'm talking about. But if the collectors do not buy, this art fair cannot survive even a few years. even a few. You could have an art fair in your underwear easier. No offense. Where did that come from? So that's what I think. I also think that we live in a time, again, my unprepared remark parts is, money has become content and it's hurting us. I'm not here to say, look at a lot of people like that do poo-poo galleries and whatnot, they're basically saying the air is dirty and I will not breathe it. And my answer to them is fine, then don't breathe. Okay, just hold your breath like you big babies. But the question I have for you to answer inside is, are we driving this? Or is it now driving us? Are we driving the apparati of 100 art fairs? That top, heavy, gigantic apparatus that is the art world? Or is it driving us? You understand what I'm saying? Nobody wakes up and says, hi, I'm going to be the most craven, money-craven a-hole in the world. Do you know that Jeff Koons doesn't wake up that morning? Jeff Koons wakes up and he thinks he's like Ronald Reagan. Hi, how are you? I'm very positive about this art world. I'm feeling awfully good about my hanging locomotive. He is really, I swear to you, even Damien Hirst is a fucking genius of the way he uses language. Of course he makes a lot of crap. It's complete crapola. And is he being a cynic about it? Well, I don't like cynics. I'll be perfectly honest with you. Since we have an all-volunteer army, all volunteer, nobody's been conscripted into this army, thank God. You're here because you have self-selected to be. It's like you have had a vision. Remember that old movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind? You are all Richard Dreyfuss walking around, like looking at a Cy Twombly scribble going, this is important. This means something. I didn't ask you to think such a cockamamie thought. I have people saying the same thing about everything, anything. You have self-selected to be here. The apparatus, however, has placed in front of you a content so powerful and all-consuming that we call money, that it's really, what are we going to do? I do not have this answer. I ask you a rhetorical question. What are we going to do? Is it time, I wonder, and again, unprepared, haven't thought this through, should art die? Okay, I'm an art lover, can't live without the stuff. I'm addicted, I'm a user, I'm crippled by it. What I mean by should art die is if this were 1988, do you know the artist Katie Noland? God bless you. No, she will never see a show of hers. What a great, the missing link, right, from one era to another era. This artist named Katie Noland. So let's date from Katie Noland through the 1990s. And I'm going to say something, again, unprepared off the top of my head that I'm not sure I can support, but let me put it this way. That period is the last period that I wished that money would go away and not bother us anymore. Knowing full well, my darlings, that there is not one romantic upside when money leaves. Never think that it's better without money. My life will be so much better without money. At that time, I was a long-distance truck driver. The only Jewish one. Dude, I don't even look that way, do I? You would never have guessed I was along. My bladder is messed up because of it. My handle was the Jewish cowboy. This is all absolutely true. We had CB radios. I would come on and go, shalom, partner. Anybody want to talk about Carl Andre's recent work? All true. I was a long-distance truck driver. And then for the early 90s, I was a chauffeur to a millionaire. And I loved my life then. I have to be honest with you. But I was younger. I didn't have kids. I have no degrees whatsoever. Thank you, Lisa, for that doctorate. Oh my God. And then I got 2 more doctorates. So I'm doctor. So I'm a proctologist, I decided. That's what I am in my mind. And I'll deliver anybody's here's commencement address. Give them one hell of a commencement address. I need one for the thumb. Okay. When we wish that money goes away, it's hard. We are the only place in the world that the recession hasn't come. I know nothing about money, okay? I only just started filing income tax, so please, God, don't report this. Okay, I'm very bad with numbers. Some of you are dopes like I am, okay? Most artists are like, I don't know, put a 0 there. Most of you are Mitt Romney. You know what you pay? You pay 13%. Artists, don't lie. You know what I pay? 33%. You know what Todd Levin pays? 33%. Paul, Leslie, do you pay 33%? More. Because we don't know. We don't have deductions. What am I trying to say? I'm still saying if money has not gone away, but if it did, the last time it did, it gave us what I would loosely call the greatest generation. A term I despise. But I do think we must turn the page from the fucking 1970s. God love them. You think I don't love Bruce and Dick Sarah and, Ryman and the, post-minimal conceptual hegemony? Although the post-minimal conceptual hegemony is the only thing you see in every biennial you go to virtually on the face of the earth. That is all. Label after label after label that explains how to understand this art. Fine, that's what biennial curators like. I sometimes think we may have lost a generation to higher degrees, to having gone to school. You must go to school in the art world that we have now. I don't have degrees, and I am one lucky son of a gun that I made it out of those trucks and out of a chauffeur. I'm so lucky. For me, it's because, I'll tell you my secrets later. If money, our best chance is if money stays distracted. That's the only thing I can now think. It's distracted by large, colorful, shiny objects with many splendid zeros. And if it could just focus on that, one of the best avenues I'm thinking is that could distract money enough so Trojan horses could start to worm their way into various woodworks and surprise people. So somehow, some way we could say to people, where were you when we were getting high? That beautiful, beautiful expression that you can no longer say. Most collectors know more than I do about contemporary art. At this point, they know names. They're going to studios. They go to schools that I teach at. I'm going up to Columbia. I'm seeing collectors. They go, oh, Jared, you know so-and-so's work. I own 6 of her works. How much do they cost? I say, $18,000 each. And I say, that's a hell of a lot of money. $18,000. It isn't to any young artist anymore. It should be. It should be. And a lot of young artists are sitting here going, 18, I'd like to get 800. We all know that only 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% of artists really actually make money. And actually, for a period, we knew their names, didn't we? Takashi, they were white guys mainly. Takashi, Jeff, Damien, who am I forgetting? Maurizio, Rudy, Richard Prince, right. We all know, without Gagosian, I sometimes wonder what would happen in New York. That would be like the auto industry closing. Except, what happens to younger artists, I ask you, that go to Gagosian? In your mind, make a little list of somebody alive that shows with this great gallery that I've never missed a show at, Gagosian. All the locations in New York, I don't miss shows there. Ask yourself what happened to that artist. What happens to that artist is they make a lot of money. And I love that they can make money. Mostly artists want to just be in their studios, masturbate and make art. That's really all they're doing in there. You artists are nodding. The artists are going, yeah, that's pretty much it. I never like coming into their studios. Blech, disgusting. And that's what a lot of them opt for. I think they slowly grow out of it in a funny way when they do that. But what happens when you go to the great and powerful Larry is you leave the conversation. You don't see like a Richard Prince painting in back of the desk every time you go into the gallery, or a few new ones that they've decided to put up over here. The only part of the conversation they're in is on the trading floor. The only Richard Princes or Rudy Stingles or Cecily Browns or whoever it is, love them or hate them, the only ones you only ever see are for 40 to 45 seconds at one of these clusterfucks we call art fairs, these moving tent casino cities that we erect. The white people come in, hopefully spend money so people like me can have their phony baloney jobs. I'm not being cynical. I'm only talking about the apparatus that we all built somehow together, the one that we're stuck with. Do you have any ideas? Are we out of ideas? The reason I use Facebook is I desperately need to hear what other people are thinking. That's why I use it. I can't stand the critical model, in my case, of the one speaking to the many. I can't bear that kind of Greenbergian, I will tell you what is good. Because I tell you, at 3 in the morning, Greenberg was going, Morris Louis, he's starting to repeat himself a little. You know, I need to tell him where to cut those canvases. I want the many to speak to one another empowered and coherently. This is why if you ever come on my idiotic Facebook, which is more like a bar, I'm not going to pretend it's this great critical forum, but which is why on my Facebook I never allow anybody to scream at anyone except me. You can attack. I have the skin of an elephant. Do you know every morning I Google myself, and that is not as bad as that sounds. I Google my name, and I read, I'm lucky because my name is out there, and I read about 20 to 30 comments that people wrote about me that day. And my God, some people do not like me. And your first reaction is, who could not like me? What, why? I'm really trying. I'm writing as hard as I can. But some people like me, and I always want to write to them, thank you, I love you very much. But I don't dare. And then the negative people, here's what I believe. Artists, listen up. I believe that there's a grain of truth to every piece of criticism. I really mean that. And every time somebody writes something, the first thing I think is, you could be right. That could be right. And the second thing I think is I try to be self-critical, and I think, what was it in my work, in my presentation, that allowed that person to think that? And I try never to be cynical, like, oh, they just want my attention, or they're mad because I didn't review their gallery, or their friend, or their art. Although artists are always, and they should be, 100% maniacally self-involved. I hate you for that, artists. I love you for that. Which kind of means that I should sort of start my talk, and it's probably time to end. And all I was going to start by saying, first of all, welcome prophets, gypsies, outsiders, art lovers, outcasts. Our war cry is no obstacles, no excuses. Art first, All else will follow. Our auras change. As Edgar Allan Poe said, we are all splendid. You are all splendid, but dark. I'm very how many artists are in the room, please? God hate you. God love you. God love you. I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you for trying, for putting yourselves out there, for being vulnerable, for making it this far, for not being afraid to have a divided self, for not being afraid to have your own thoughts fragmented, for not giving up, for being willing to just keep going, to know that what we all know, that about 75% of what you woke up this morning knowing was true will not be true by the time you go to bed. And how you live through that without kind of having, saying to the Art Basel people, my stepfather is dying. Every day we go through that. So I'm really proud of you. I'm proud of you because most people don't understand art. Okay? Yes, it's wildly popular these days, and they don't understand artists. They don't know what it's like to be an artist. They don't actually understand that for you, making art is akin to like breathing or eating. You poor bastards. But it is. They understand books. They understand movies, plays. They understand Kim Kardashian, who I still never recognize. These new stars, they move very quickly on the screen, and I can never quite be sure who I'm looking at. But people understand Kim Kardashian. They don't understand artists, and they do understand money. That's another thing people think they understand. But I guess I would tell people when they say, oh, honey, I don't understand why you put these 2 eggs on the side of a speaker. I think what you have to say to them is, Mom, Dad, son of a bitch, art is not about understanding. Art is about experience. No one says, I don't understand that song. No one says, I don't understand Mozart. No one, after eating a really great meal, goes, I don't understand that creme brulee. You don't listen to ABBA and go, Dancing Queen, I don't understand it. We are making critical judgments about these things. These things tell us that pleasure. They tell us that pleasure is an important form of knowledge, and that in the art world we have forsaken that. I remember once I went to a lecture with this person that intimidates the crap out of me, Rosalind Krauss. And I sat in on 4 of her classes at Columbia with permission, because I teach at Columbia. 4 classes, they were just lecture classes. I would always sit in the back. I, in 4 years, did not understand a syllable. Not one syllable she said, but I would always ask the kids next to me, you good with this? You like this? They go, it's great. So it wasn't her or them, it was me. I accepted that, and she once gave a lecture where I heard her say, somebody asked her about color, and she said, color? I'm not interested in color. And I was sitting there, and the time slowed down, and I was staring at her from the back, and I suddenly noticed she was wearing a beautiful cinnamon-colored Angora sweater with these great kind of chestnut-colored cotton pants and these Belgian sandals that were like a tan color. And I thought, you love color. You really love color, and you understand color. But yet when it comes to art, we have to say, color, I don't like color. In the art world, we know things before we know them, and I'm always asking people, how do you know beforehand the painting is going to be bad? Can't art surprise? Can art shock? Can art surprise? You're damn right. When I go to every studio I go to at the Art Institute, for 1/1,000,000th of a second, at least, I'm seeing something right in front of me that, God damn it, I've never quite seen before. Then I can start unpacking why it's the most goddamn generic version of something I've never seen before. It's what we do. Our responses, our experiences of something are telling us how to do it. Do you know how to make your art? Artist, do you? Here's a good quote I found. Luke Toyman said, "I don't know what I'm doing, but I know how to do it." I'm pretty good with that. I think that when I'm writing. I always think, I really do not know what I'm going to write. I sit down in my chair. I'm Mr. Smarty Pants critic. I've gone to the opening. I can't go to the party because I'm not well adjusted enough. But I'm always calling somebody the next night going, how was the party? Was it fun? Who said this? Who said that? So that's how I associate. Again, on Facebook, my second self is a much better adjusted self than my first self. It's the best, and it's just my curse and my blessing. It makes me go home and work, and work, and work, and work, and work. And that's what our job is. About understanding art, I don't understand art. Oscar Wilde, I wrote down, said this great quote: "The minute you think you understand a work of art, it's dead to you." It's really true. You want to elongate the now as an artist. Do you understand what I'm saying? You want to create some kind of a delay, so I can't look at your Takashi Murakami flowers and go, "It's really great. What time is it? Let's go to the game," or something like that. You need to make some now last longer. Some of you have heard me talk about this before, to try to explain these differences of language between understanding and experience. How many of you in this room have dogs? What's your dog's name? 2, yes? Sherlock? Sienna. Mella. Bella. That's almost a cat name, dear. You're a damn good painter, but that might be a cat name. Your cat is a transvestite. See? She's catty. You did that to her. Pray the gay away. Any other dog owners? You notice the dog owners are all there with each other. What's your dog's name? Bam Bam. Blech. Mr. Big. I could not have sex with you, okay? I just would not have the nerve to do that. Her dog's name is Mr. Big. So if you call to Mr. Big, you go, "Come here, Mr. Big." And Mr. Big's inevitably going to be a teeny dog. You bitch, yes, I knew it. That's a female dog. And Mr. Big comes up to you, puts his head on your lap. You've had a direct communication with another species, which is absolutely amazing. You understand it, it understood you. Who in the room here owns cats? Okay, what's your kitty cat's name? What? Tofu. So girly. Japan and Elliot. Any other cat? Now, the cat owners have to tell you their names, so I don't know why this is. Yes? Edda. Percy? Mercy. Mercy, mercy. She's repeating it a lot because it just makes her feel good. You want to keep going? This is my talk, darling. Okay. Here's what happens when you call Elliot. You kind of go, if I'm Elliot, this is Elliot, or here's you, I don't know. Just say I'm going, "Come here, Elliot. And here's what Elliot will do. Watch this. Walk around you and go to the couch like this and go. And then go back here and go poof and sit down. Do you see what's happened? The cat put a third object between you, itself, and the world. Do you understand that? The cat placed a couch that it rubbed, turned around one time, walked the other direction, and then sat down in order to acknowledge you. It put a third thing between you and the world, itself and the world. Artists are cats. Artists are cats. I want to get my love directly from you. You know, I'm kind of here dancing naked right in front of you, right? And you're going, I hate this man, and he's babbling on. And then that forces me to go longer. And then how artists do it, though, is they make this, and they go, I want you to love me for the rest of time by everybody, everywhere, all at once, forever. And this is the way you guys are. You are, instead of being at home kissing your wives and husbands and children, which you do that too, and your cats and dogs, you are actually putting a third object between yourself and the world in order to be loved. Actually, by the way, I would add that for you, your art is more of a dog. So when you invite me into your studio, basically it does this. And you go, well, it never fell over before. It used to always work. Now it's pooping on the couch. And it behaves, your art behaves in ways like when you walk on in the morning in your studio. Have you ever had that morning where you turn the lights on and you go, holy shit, the thing's no good? Or, you know, you turn on the lights in the morning and you go, oh, it's much better than I thought it was last night. I am a genius again. Art behaves in ways that you don't know what it's going to do. So while art is a cat, it behaves like a dog, but it should. This is because, in my opinion, art is part of a cosmic force. This is the hippy-dippy part of my talk. It is part of a cosmic force that is no more or no less important than philosophy, economics, religion, psychology, sociology, thisology, thatology. Art has been here since the beginning. It's here now. It's not just a decorative hedge in front of the citadel of knowledge. When people say to you, yeah, well, art isn't really necessary, you go, well, it seems to be, because it's never not been here. We found a bone on the beach and we made a little X on it. What do you want? And then I made one of these like half moon things on my arm, and then you made one on your arm, and then we stuck some needles on it, and it like really made it stay there, and we thought that meant something. Who here has been in the caves? Anybody here seen cave art? One of the most shocking experiences I've ever had of art. I was brought in, long story short, brought into a cave, worst conditions in the world. It was in southern France, a small cave, a nothing cave, with a group of Americans. All of them had fanny packs on. They all had screaming children. All we had was a flashlight. I'm thinking, this is the worst thing I've ever done. And it's freezing and dark in there. And we're going in forever, and I'm freezing going, this is the most fucked thing ever. And then they made us all turn off our flashlights. And I'm like, Roberta and my wife and I are going, we're never going to be able to see this thing. It's just we should ask for our 2 pounds back, you know. And so they give you a talk, and they say, okay, I'm going to now flash my flashlight on one drawing. And they go like this. Then there was a bison there, and I just went, and I knew in 1 second it was art, and that it was the most closely observed drawing of this part of a bison's hoof that I had ever seen in my life, that mammals had never been rendered better before or after in the history of the world. That I have never seen, and I like George Stubbs a lot, okay, those cows and horses. I have never seen a mammal depicted like this, and we say we invented space in 1414 with Brunelleschi and Gilberte, and bullshit, we invented space. Have you ever gone? We have a little place in New York called the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and I think it's the greatest encyclopedic museum in the world. And we have 2 recreations of bedrooms in the Roman wing, and they're from the year just a little before 0, motherfuckers. Okay? And they're in perfect perspective. Egyptian scene painting, 2,000 years before that, in perspective. Sons of bitches. 1414. The cave paintings, my friends. Did you see that movie with Werner Herzog? I saw an albino alligator. I love the guy. Every Herzog movie I watch, even when I hate them, the content of the film for me is, I love that this man is alive. That's all I can think. This movie I loved. It's the cave painting movie. What was it called? Cave of Forgotten Beetles or something, you know. So we're looking at it, and I saw in his movie exactly what Roberta and I saw in the caves, which is they had perspective. That the animals were not individual. That if you saw them as a whole, if you would decide to see the space as a whole, they might have been drinking at a water hole. And that the largest ones were closest to you, and they got gradually smaller, and their faces would go down into the water as they went further. And I suddenly saw a form of perspective. These other cultures had perspective, they just weren't that into it. And we loved perspective. From 1414 to about 1851, boing, 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 we could not get enough of the stuff. Oh my God, we'd go like, you see those Canalettos, it's like, space, And I still love a Canaletto. All that space zooming away from you, making you lonely. Oh God, I'm existential. I'm all alone in the world. Space is rushing away from me. Then you go into the eastern wings of every museum to India, Japan, China, Korea. And first of all, every figure in them is boinking each other. Every figure is like boinking. This one is boinking. The buffalo is boinking. The elephant is boinking like a 30-headed goddess. What the fuck? That's what they're doing. And none of them are in real space. In a way, what we did is we had one story in the West, the Bible, that we were telling in 1,000,000 spaces before 1414. One story being told in 1,000,000 spaces. After 1414, we basically made it 1,000,000 stories, but told in only one space. And of course, artists by about 1851 said, screw that. I want to tell the 1,000,000 stories in 1,000,000 spaces. So when we think we understand art, don't think you understand art. You don't. It's much more complicated than we ever say it is. Should we do question and answers? Should I talk a little more? What should I do? And if I worn out my welcome? I'll say just a couple more things, okay? I will give you some advice, artists. Would you like some advice? I didn't go to art school, and this is the advice I wish I'd gotten if I went to art school. First of all, by the way, if you go to art school, and now we have to go to art school, I guess what I would say is the new idea would be to try to figure out a way to go to art school where you're not graduating owing $100,000, okay? You're never going to make that back in your whole fucking life. It can't be done. Sorry. I can't pay it back. And in my day, you could get away with not paying for like 15, 20 years. Now you guys, you get a call the next day. So what the answer is going to have to be, and I'm finding this as I teach, to find good schools that cost less money. If you live in a state like Illinois, I love the Art Institute. If you can afford it, go there. But if you can't, go to a state school. In New York, go to Hunter. Go to schools that don't cost as much money. And don't worry about going to the hippest, coolest school. You're nuts if you worry about that, because here's what I have found. Kids from everywhere are pretty much on the same page, and all the schools are pretty damn good right now, or pretty damn bad, whatever you want, whatever your attitude is. Columbia, where I teach, and Yale, where I teach, it's not much better or worse than the Art Institute. They get one thing you don't get if you go to school in Chicago. Do you know what it is? They get about a 12-month career bump. For those first 12 months, if they can capitalize on it, because they kind of already know 219 people. They've met Rick Tirvanesia enough. They know Liam and whoever, and that's great, good. You stay up, you have a beer with them, you become their assistant. I'm all for it. But after about 9 to 12 months, that one bump wears off, I promise you, and everybody's equal again. So you don't have to worry about that. More advice is not to worry about that. The other advice is envy will eat you alive. It will kill you. Stop envying everybody else. You big babies. Don't be a big baby. I wish you could win the lottery. I wish you could marry well. Go marry well. If that's really what you want, oh, all I really want is money. If I just had enough money, I could make my brilliant work. Okay. If you have that kind of belief in your work, go marry it. Go marry that money and be happy. Or you better fucking play the lottery every goddamn week. I did, and it used to kill me. I would drop $20. Fine, that's not a lot of money. This is years ago. But then I would spend the entire week going, I'm going to win the lottery. Yes, I'm going to win the lottery. And then I'll have more, and then won't have to be this truck driver. You can do it, but I'm going to tell you, none of you are going to make a lot of money, okay? Sorry, you chose the profession that isn't going to have a lot of money. You chose a profession that's great because your lives will never be boring. Let your life never be boring. Be poor with as much style as you possibly can. Stay up late with each other, really late. Forget about me. The alchemy of schools and teaching and being an artist is after the dumb, wonderful, I love me teachers go home, stay up late with each other. Share the precious bodily fluids, not literally, or that too. Make friends and enemies. Argue together. You must support one another completely. The weakest among you must be supported in the strongest way. The deeper secret is every other member of the group thinks you're the weakest one. That is why you have to protect each other. Vampires must be together. If a vampire is alone in a city, the vampire will die and begin to feed on things like rats. Do you understand? An artist must, there's no such thing as one ant. In the same way, unless maybe you're some weird photographer type that needs to kind of go to Africa or like the Antarctic and take pictures of an iceberg. You have to be with other people that speak and drink the same blood. And you must drink the blood together. And you must share this blood together. Or else you will surely, you're looking at me like I'm a lunatic. You will perish. You will die. I mean it as an artist. You will start to think you know things that you do not know. You will start to wake up and go to sleep knowing the same thing. And we don't think that's possible. Or Oscar Wilde didn't think it's possible. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to Luke Toymans. He'll eat and beat you. John Cage said a great thing. It sounds craven. I think that work comes from work. Work doesn't come from Okay, you're in there masturbating and thinking about your work all the time, you stupid punks. Great. Whatever you're doing is great. But really, you can't think your way through an art problem. They're different languages. You can't think your way through it. Work comes from work. If you think there's another cure for it, believe me, the older people in this room have tried it all. That's why you vaguely hate us, and you vaguely should. But the only cure for not working is working. John Cage said, if you work, it will lead to something. It is the people who do all the work all the time who eventually catch on to things. So like when you go, how the fuck they know that? The answer is, duh, they were working. Use it or lose it. Use it or lose it. Don't be a baby. I know you've got jobs. I had a full-time job. I didn't write my first review till I was in my 40s. Behold, a late bloomer. Very late bloomer. Bigger loser you will never set eyes on. Do I have a right to be in this art world? No degrees. Late bloomer. Barely have a right to be here. Just like you. I'm making this up as I go along. We are all self-taught, all splendid, but dark. Obsession is your key. Whatever you're obsessed with is trying to tell you something. You can't just always make art that's connecting the dots between Andy Warhol, Chris Wohl, and Wade Guyton. Okay, I'm all for connecting those dots. Connect the fucking dots. Okay, make it make sense. But it better have to do with your obsession. I'm always amazed when I'm in artist studios, like their biggest obsession. Like I see somebody, I had a studio visit the other day, the person was embroidering the whole time that we're talking, and they made beautiful, very intellectual, generic, boring paintings that looked like Wade Guyton's work. And I said, you've never so much as sewed a button onto one of these. They went, oh God, I would never do that. This is a painting. And I was like, oh God. And I went, boom, boom, boom. And I threw up this thing they were embroidering, and I said, this is your work, you big dummy. This should be in your work, this love, this need, this compulsion, this way you're using to not connect, this way you're using to build a bridge from the outer to the inner self, from pleasure to the not feeling. All of those things. If you love the Cubs, if you love the Cubs, Detroit is doing great. Congratulations. If you love the Cubs that much, then they might need to be in your work. If you're reading one thing over and over, when I was your age, kids, I've never read, but I found one book I read, and I would read Dante's Divine Comedy from the first book to the last, and then I would start again and read it again, over and over. Why? Because I'm splendid but dark, just like you, and you have to follow these obsessions. You have to do everything, everything. This is not an art world where you want to hone your one Takashi Murakami style. You do not want to do just one style. I want you to do every idea that occurs to your cockamamie, stupid artist brain. I mean, everyone, every path, every notion you have to follow. These are hybrids, and life comes from this kind of pollution, these kind of cross-breeding. If you make a generic sexless mule, you got me to tell you. I'll come into your studio and go, this thing will never be able to reproduce. But most of the time, if you follow every lead, you will attain what art is supposed to do, you idiots. I love you, I'm an idiot too. You must be able to create a machine that can make things that you cannot predict. A little bit like life. Just think of what poor Philip Guston would have done when he's making those pretty abstract impressionist paintings. If you told him, hey dude, you're going to be painting Ku Klux Klan guys with big eyes and cigars. He would have killed himself early. Boom, I'm out of here. I'm not painting no big eyes. And then you'd go, dude, you were painting those when you were a kid. You were obsessed with them once upon then. Oftentimes, you schmucks, have you ever seen that great painting? I think they own it up in Minneapolis, Bob Gober's Slides of a Changing Painting. Guy was as depressed as you are. Not as stinky as a lot of you. What, do you hate deodorant? Is it political? Oh my God. Anyway, he's painting. He only has enough money for a board, about 1 foot by 1 foot. So he paints a painting on it like of a teacup, and then he takes a picture of it. But he doesn't have enough money, so he paints it out and paints over the teacup like a sewer cover, and over that like a torso. And this work stunk. It was terrible painting. I don't have to tell you what happened in those 101 paintings, that every single thing that he made for the rest of his career virtually comes directly out of this work that he thought was shite and terrible and throw out, and that he did not keep, that exists only as slides. You don't know when it's happening. You don't have to worry about zeroing in on one style. You only have to worry about finding your own voice and giving yourself, my loves, total permission. Total permission. You make it up as you go along. You explain afterwards. The forewords and introductions to books are written last, not first. Isn't that weird? It's so obvious, and we never think about that. And you don't have to read a book from the front to the back. I don't care where you read it from. I'm so nervous about reading, I generally try to jump in. I never read a biography until they're about my age, because I'm always scared that they had a better childhood from me, and then I'll be eaten by envy. Oh my God, they had better parents with more money. Oh my God. My life is fucked, you know. And to finish up by saying, I would just say, you have to rethink skill. Don't take other people's ideas of skill. I want to see you like perform brain surgery with an axe. If we defined, it's like figure painting, by traditional standards of skill, the way your mom and dads do, then Bouguereau and the 19th century salon painters would have been the greatest painters who ever lived. No one has perfected skill like those guys. And you all know it. And yet we know that that's not skill. Is there anybody more awkward than Marsden Hartley? Is there another artist more awkward? Or is there an artist like Bill Traylor that just has a feel for exactly where a shape goes on a four-sided piece of paper? No one maybe in the history of art, I've never seen this thing that Bill Traylor has, of look at any of his drawings and then see where it is on the paper. You can't teach that. That's just following something. You have to trust that. You have to give it total permission. And if people don't like it, it's your fucking tough luck. You have to look at as much as you possibly can. Look, keep looking. Bad art teaches you as much as good. I'll show you how I look at art. You ready? And then I'll show you how you look at art. I once walked into a gallery and I saw Jasper Johns looking at art this way. So I will now show you what I look like when I look at art. And my wife always says to me, "You schmuck, why are you standing that way?" And I always go, "What are you talking about? This is how I stand when I look at art." Anyway, so I saw him stand that way, and if I really get serious about the work, I'll give it one of these. Because I think, yeah, I bet somebody's watching me. I'll look at the damn thing. Now I'll show you how artists look at work. I can always tell, other than how you smell. I love you. Here's how artists look at work. If that's the painting or sculpture, here's how they look at it. What are you doing, artist? Tell the truth so I don't have to turn you in. What are you doing? Figuring out how it was made. Stealing. Thank you. Me. I look at Terry Myers and I and Todd and Paul. We look at shows and we're ready. We're armed and bulletproof for the morning phone conversation. We can tell you which painting was the best, which one was derivative of that, which was more generic, how this show compared to this and how that show compared to their last show. I have these conversations with other critics and we think we're bulletproof. And then you get get on the phone with an artist and you go, yes, and what did you think of the Gary Hume painting? And they'll go, shiny. And you go, well, yeah, but it was shiny, but they'll go, they mixed sand into the paint. And that's what artists are doing. They're finding the parts that they can eat and use and poop out in this brand new hybrid way. I hate you, but that's what you do. And that's why your obsession comes in. And that's why there's no such thing as like a bad show. Every show, you know the old story of Jimi Hendrix only went to the worst clubs in Liverpool when the Beatles and the Stones were playing there. And his friends would go, Jimmy, we can take you to the real clubs. And he didn't want to hear that. He would wait and wait until somebody with their guitar kind of went, and then he would get up and go, I've got what I need. I've got what I need. He already knew that if he's going to just make the Kelly Walker painting, or the whoever, that somebody already has that, and that there's not enough room for him to do it. The only other things I would say to you, should I stop? It's time to stop. Please, my darlings, don't define success in any way but a few. First of all, you better not define it by money these days. God help you if that's how you're going to define it. I hope that one way you will define success is by time. Artists, the only real thing you need, my darlings, my sweets, is time. Time to make your dumb work. Time to make your art. These phony baloney jobs that we all hold in this room, every one of you and I who complain about the art world and the money, all of us don't have full-time jobs, many of us. Is my job full-time? I think it is, the same way you think yours is full-time. But basically, look, it's early in the morning and somehow we all found a morning, okay? And the secret, you know what I'm saying. That's one success. That for a young artist, if you can work just 3 days a week, get your phony baloney job down to 3 days a week, that's where the depression starts to lift. How many days a week are you working? Yes. Three? Bless you, child. 5? I love you. Do you need a hug? Okay, but you don't seem very unhappy about it. What's your job?
I'm the editor-in-chief of Art Basel magazine.
All right. Did I say bad things about the magazine? Thanks for inviting me that one time. He bites the hand. Give me your hand. I'm biting your hand. I love your pants. Who could not like me? Okay. How many days a week do any other you kids work? Anybody else want to tell me? You see, you're not at the depression levels of 5 days. The other thing is, do not let rejection define you. Never let rejection define you. When I don't like your work, do you know what it means?
You saw it.
It means that I don't like it. It doesn't mean that you suck, although in my opinion you may suck. But it doesn't mean that you actually suck. Because what artists have to have above all, and then I'll finish, and if you want to ask me a couple questions, fine, or if I bumped up against the next talk, I am really sorry. Deepest apologies. What artists really need is when you wake up in the morning, and I'm up every morning at 3:15 going, my work is no good. My work bottomed out this morning while you're in bed. And the first thing you think is, should I wake the person next to me in bed? And you think, bad idea. Okay, I've been doing that every night, and I've got to stop waking this person up. I'm worried about my work, honey. Oh, shut up. Okay, just be quiet. So you're worried, you've decided the whole thing is not working, this paragraph or that section of the sculpture or the idea. And I hate when artists say, well, I would do this idea if I could raise enough money to do it. Screw you, baby artists. Find a way to do it. You just find a way to do it. And if you can't do it out of cast aluminum, I'm sorry, you have to find another material where you can do it. Unless the work just isn't that important to you. And if it's not that important to you, it's not that important to me, no offense. Especially when you're going to charge $19,000 for it. Blech. I've never owned a new car, and you're already charging me for two. And I love you for it. When you wake up at 3:15 in the morning, that's your job. Your job is to worry at 3:15 in the morning. That's why you're awake, you idiot. You don't have any time anymore to do that kind of worrying. You're so tired from everything in your day that you need to be awake worrying the death out of whatever you're worrying. From 3 to 4:30, that's your scaredy cat time. Okay? By 6:30, God willing, unless the kids are up, you can go back to sleep for an hour or two, and don't worry about not getting enough sleep. When you're dead, it'll all come out. Okay, just don't even worry about that. Stop that kind of worry and worry about your work. But when you are lying in bed and the suicide meter is starting to go up, and you're going, I didn't go to the right school, I don't really have enough money, and you're coming into the suicide area, I'm using that figuratively. Tell me some of the other things you tell yourself at 3 in the morning. Michigan people, go for it. I'm so, you are. It's be with, I feel kind of isolated. You, and, sir? Yeah.
Everything and anything.
I'm worried about everything. My children, I can't help you there. What are you worried about? Writing. That I can't help you with. It's easy. You sit down, open a vein, and start writing. We have the worst job. We can't listen to music when we do what we do. We're alone all the time, and at the most successful levels even, you make no bloody money. Bet you have a good time, you get brought to Chicago, and then you bite the hand that feeds. It's a disaster. What do you worry about? Grocery shopping, money. You worry about money. You?
Never finish it.
I never finish this thing. You? I never finish. I don't have enough money. I don't really know how to draw. So here's what I want you to do, artists. When you go, I'm not really a good schmoozer. I'm not really invited to the right parties. I'm kind of stuck where I am here. I don't know that my work really means anything. I don't really know that if what I have to say really means anything. Right here, my loves, you have to go, I don't know if my work really means anything. You go, but I'm a fucking genius. You must be delusional. Artists, you have to be delusional. If you do not 100% believe in yourself, then it's all lost before it began. So I've now talked too long. I didn't say everything I wanted, but I've said more than you wanted to hear. So thank you. And if you want to ask a couple questions, fine. If not, that's fine too. Go on my Facebook, make an ass of yourself, dance naked in public with me, and you'll be radically vulnerable. That's all I ask. So thanks for listening very, 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 very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to walk off if I don't see a hand, which is fine. You're probably all going to the men's and ladies' rooms. Collectors start buying art from those booths, yes, very quickly.
You want to say anything about being in the art
Do I want to say anything about women in the art world? The art world is a self-replicating organism. More men show because more men have shown. It keeps doing that. All I can say is to try to do as critics and as artists without getting kicked out of your shows is what I did for years and years, and I've been attacked for years and years for it, and it hurts. They call me a bean counter, a tally taker. I always report what percent of women are in shows. I do this, I'm attacked for it, I still think it's necessary. I think that you need to have women be allowed to be as mediocre as men. That's the only mediocre pay for mediocre work. That's what I say. You should be as overpaid for your shit work as he's overpaid for his shit work. The writers should be doing it, they don't. You can only embarrass museums. Again, museums make fun of me constantly. Critics, curators are always going, do we have enough women for you, Jerry? And I go, look, I'm an old guy. I'm just pointing. Andy Warhol didn't maybe care about capital punishment, but he noticed. And he painted the electric chair. Do you have any ideas that can be done about women? Noticing.
Well, and letting collectors know that their collection is out of balance.
Yeah, if you really feel like attacking somebody else's thing, a collector's in that case, you're more than free to say, I noticed that 84% of the work you own is by men. And they can say, yep, I love this work. And that's the end of the argument.
Right, it doesn't have to be just collectors, it can be galleries.
Anything, yeah. Guerrilla girls it's always ripe for more girls to be guerrilla. And that means boys too. Any other quick question? And I thank you really for all the extra time. Thank you. Thank you.